before in the past about podcasts and how that's basically like the ultimate hack for you.
It's hilarious. It's so funny. Podcasting is so underrated.
If you were to give like a number of a multiplier of how much it has impacted your career, how much of a game changer has that had on your career?
At least 100.
From your time interviewing 115 guests on the show, what's like the most common way people have responded to failure?
People that have failed the most have the most grit.
The path of freelancing is riddled with failure. Fail hard, fail faster, right?
I don't want to know how great you are. I want to know how you weren't great and what you changed to be great.
It's worthwhile aiming at a high goal because the journey it takes and who you're becoming, that's where the gold is.
Yeah, just go for it. Like, no one cares. If you want to do something, it's up to you. Go do it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Digital Third Podcast. In this episode, I chat with Jack Redley. He is the host of the Webflail Podcast, a show where he's interviewed over 100 creatives from designers and founders to freelancers and makers, digging into their stories of failure and the lessons they've learned along the way. We talk about how starting a podcast completely changed his career and why he thinks it's one of the most underrated hacks for anyone starting from scratch. We also dive deep into trying new things, what it means to embrace failure, how to develop grit, and navigating the tough parts of freelancing. This one is packed with honest stories and real lessons that'll encourage you wherever you are in your creative journey. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, well, hey, I wanna touch on what you've done with the Webflail podcast. You've recently sunset it, and I'm just gonna share my screen here for those who are watching. You've covered over 110 episodes, and you've interviewed one of the, all the top people in the design industry. You have Rob Hope, Vlad Magdalene, CEO of Webflow. You got Webbay or Keegan, and Grace Walker, John Saunders. Like, you've covered them all. So I want to learn about what you've gathered from all your interviews. In total, how many interviews have you done?
We did 115. I actually was looking at that website there now, and I was like, I need to upload more to the website just to finish this all off. But
all right, 115 episodes under your belt. Amazing. Congrats.
No, it was fun. It was I feel like a bit of explanation for anyone that's listening and maybe is like, what is this Webflail thing? So
how about you start with introducing yourself real quick? A little 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm you are the host. Yes. I am Jack, and I basically started Webflowing a few years ago, and I worked for Dexter Washington at Crafted Studios, and then I started freelancing, and then I bounced around various different Webflow-ish jobs, ended up at Edgar Allan, and worked for them doing some marketing stuff. I actually wasn't doing Webflow things at that time, but during all this period I was doing Webflail. So I basically wanted to ask intrusive questions to people that knew a lot more about the world of Webflow and freelancing than me, and I figured setting up a podcast was quite a good way to Trojan horse my way into their DMs with something of value when I frankly had no value. And then it kind of became a lot more than a hobby. It became a bit of an obsession, really, trying to just understand why people did what they did, and what failures they had along the way to actually get to where they were. As you just said, I recently stopped it because I wanted to go in a very different direction, but that's kind of the gist.
Awesome. Let's just promote what you're doing right away, right off the bat. Right now, you are kicking off a new YouTube channel. It is Under the Hood, and it is focusing on 3D. So that's really exciting. For those who are watching, check out Jack Redley Design. You can find out more. You're going to be pumping out more basically demo tutorials on how to design under the hood for 3D, yeah? Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it's so... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, maybe we can touch on that. I mainly want to cover failure. I want to talk about what you've learned interviewing 115 people, like they're well and successful in the space. One of the core values that I want to promote in the digital third is grit. And so like I want our audience to learn how they can develop the ability to overcome the fear of failure. So I'm curious for you, like from your time interviewing 115 guests on the show, what's like the most common way people have responded to failure?
Okay, so a lot to say about this topic. Generally, people that have failed the most have the most grit. So what I mean by that is that, and also the people that have been the most successful, or perhaps you know them as successful, have actually had the most failures. So I think there's a correlation there between willingness to fail and, in the long term, successful outcome. But I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is that most people look at failure as a negative thing. And that stops anyone from even building almost a momentum in failure to get to a momentum of success. You kind of need to get rejected from an agency job or start posting on social media all your work and get 0 likes and then think, I'm a piece of shit. Why do I even bother? And actually, I think there's like this, muscle that you need to build, get your reps in of being a failure. It's like Casey Neistat talks about this idea of make 100 bad videos, and then I'll help you make a good one, because you essentially will learn so much from that process of doing so much bad work to actually start making good work. And the most prolific people in the Webflow space, some of the names you just mentioned there, Joseph Berry or Grace Walker or John D. Saunders or whatever, these guys have just done a lot of work. And some of it's good and some of it's bad, but now it's pretty consistently good because they've just been doing it long enough. And I kind of think the same goes for freelancing. Like, you've just got to stick in the game long enough to see the fruits of your labors, all that, learning from tutorials and all those projects that you were like, why am I doing this? What is the point? Like, all of that gives you the muscle memory to actually do great work with good people, which is ultimately probably why you enjoy the idea of freelancing in the first place.
Yeah. I think that the path of freelancing is riddled with failure. I would say that's the foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, like, it's a little bit cliche, but this idea of like, it's not about how hard you can get hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and get up again, type idea. I probably butchered that phrase from Rocky, but I do think, like, as much as people talk about money and the benefits of freelancing, choose when and where you work and all this stuff, like, the first year of freelancing is so rough. It's so bad. And anyone that tells you any different, I think try it and see what your experience is. But for me, I wasn't very good at what I was doing. I wasn't getting hired. I didn't know how to sell. I was watching Chris Do videos just before I did sales calls, and I didn't know what I was talking about.
Me too.
I was, yeah, and I think that's freelancing in the first year. That's and I, you could class that as failure, and I think generally failure is perceived negatively. But what I guess I was trying to do with Webflail is to reframe failure and be like, hey, these are kind of stepping stones to success. And it might seem counterintuitive to be like, fail once, fail twice, fail 3 times, success. Like, you're kind of failing is bad. Like, it's like going down, and mentally maybe you're like, I failed again. I should quit this. Clearly this isn't working. Like, only a psychopath would just carry on doing this like a moth to a light, just keep going and hitting the light, just like. But I think that's kind of how it goes, and I think you'll get better and stronger and more confident as you do it. So yeah, I guess that's the big takeaway.
Interesting.
Keep failing.
What was there a particular experience or story that was memorable to you that caused you to brand a whole podcast based on failure? Like did you see that in someone and how they reframe failure, or did you see it in yourself? I'm just curious on why you decided to do that. It's a great. I love the format. I love how you ask top 3 failures in every designer.
Oh, thanks. I don't think it was a specific moment that anyone said, as much as I was getting told by going on Twitter, by going on YouTube, that I should be earning $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month online, and I was an idiot if I couldn't. And I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar, but I would say that I'm not that dumb. I was like, this is so hard. Like, clearly I'm missing something here. And I'm not saying that this is all about money. I was just not enjoying it. I wasn't even doing the creative work I wanted to do. I didn't really understand how I was going to do the creative work I wanted to do, and how I was going to just earn an income just to even pursue that. So I wanted to ask people who I considered successful and just be like, I don't want to know how great you are. I already know that from looking at your Twitter bio. I want to know how you weren't great and what you changed to be great, or what habits you implemented that gave you that, stream of clients, or just how did you even get good at design? Like, there was stuff that just wasn't. I couldn't find the answers, and generally, like saying, "Hey, you're a really great person and you're really good at design." That's not going to get under the skin or give me the answers that I needed. Like, I can find out very easily, how to make a logo on Google, right? Like, I can find out that information, or how to create a website like that. All that information is readily available. What I didn't get was the different paths people took, or maybe the route people went down to niche, and it just wasn't working. And what did they change, or like what did they try? And I guess I wanted like real-time information, face to face, from people that were actually doing it. So
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
That's awesome. And we've talked before in the past about starting a podcast and how that's basically like the ultimate hack for you, right? Like you had access. I mean, you sat down with Vlad.
Yeah,
Like
it's hilarious.
It's amazing.
It's so funny. I flew out to San Francisco because of this little mic in front of me. It's absolutely hilarious.
Did you
Yeah.
primarily fly there just to interview Vlad?
Yeah. I messaged him.
Wow.
And I just said, hey, I know this is a bit random, but 100th episode's coming up, and I'd love to do the interview, but I wondered if we could do it in person, because I think it would just be really special. And he was like, yeah, sounds great.
Wow.
And it just came to be. It's mad. It's absolutely hilarious. But that's what I mean. I think, like, if ultimately I was emailing people saying, hey, can I have a virtual coffee with you for 30 minutes to ask you some questions about how you got to where you were? Like, I had, like, how appealing is that offer? Zero appeal, right? Like, no, these people are busy. They're good at what they do. They have limited time. They have kids. They have a life. They don't want to talk to some random English guy, on a Tuesday afternoon. Like, it's not part of what their routine is, right? So, but I do know that, giving people a platform to speak on is quite desirable. And so I actually lied to Melissa Mendez. Shout out for the first guest being Melissa. I said to her, I was like, hey, I'm setting on this podcast. Would you be interested in being the first guest? It would be an honor to have you. And she was like, yeah, would love to. And I was like, oh my God, this is a big life hack.
Right.
Because
the Melissa Mendez. I
had emailed loads of people to say, hey, can I have a half an hour virtual coffee with you? Or, can I take 10 minutes of your time to just answer some of the questions below and send them some questions. And, very much of the time I didn't get a response, let alone an hour sit down chat with someone. So yeah, huge life hack, podcasting. And even if no one listens, it literally doesn't matter. It's such a hack.
Yeah, because you're getting all the wisdom and knowledge that you've always
because
wanted to
I
ask.
want to know this stuff. If literally zero other people listen, it's still a huge win for me. And this is why I think like podcasting is so underrated. Like the barrier to entry is so low, which is why there's so many bad podcasts out there. Right? Like, let's be clear, if the barrier to entry is low, then you're kind of wading through a lot of podcasts to find one you want to listen to. But I would say that if you're genuinely, like, if the win is just chatting to a guest, like if I'm excited every single week to chat to the guest, then hey, it's a win in my book. I can ask them all the questions I've been wanting to ask them from stalking them on Twitter and LinkedIn for the last few months. Winner, chicken dinner.
I mean, yeah, I think I'm going to point to this previous episode that you were on, Behind the Mic. That was episode 2, actually. And we talk all about podcasting and the hack and the secrets. And I would say, how much of it, if you were to give like a number of a multiplier of how much it has impacted your career in advance, like would it be a 10x, 100x? Like how much of a game changer has
Oh my God. I'd say at least 100x, yeah.
At least. Wow.
At least 100x. I mean, it's like, okay, let's set the scene, right? So I was not very good at Webflow. I didn't have any contacts. I'd never worked in an agency. I'd never worked in a creative role. I just left university. And then I just lied to Melissa Mendez saying I was setting up a podcast. Would she love to be the first guest? She said yes. I was like, fuck, how do I do a podcast? Bought a mic off Amazon for like whatever, $50. I was broke. Like I had nothing. And it's not like
and you had no branding, no website. You just you cold DM'd her.
Yeah, like I literally just emailed her. I don't actually know how I got her email, but anyway,
that is hilarious.
I mean, since then, I've met literally hundreds of Webflowers, and whenever I've got, I don't know, say I have a question about a Webflow problem, I've got this bank of people that I can ask upon, or also just like friendship wise, like we're in this kind of weird world, and it's quite isolating sometimes to just be. I mean, I'm in a co-working space, which really helps, but a lot of the time, you are just doing client stuff, and you might need to just vent. And now I've got like a bunch of people that I'm friendly with, and it's great.
It is amazing. So many other questions I want to follow up on, but I want to stay on topic. How did you rewind? Let's rewind back to the day when you first started. Like, what was your mindset? You're like, what do you mean you lied to Melissa? Like, as if you had a podcast, but then you actually didn't create one, and then you had to rush. Was that the lie? How did you get started?
Yeah, like I had no idea. So I basically had a laptop and no mic or anything. I didn't know how podcasts really worked. I mean, I listened to podcasts on Spotify and stuff, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I just emailed Melissa and said, hey, I'm thinking about setting up a podcast. Like, would you be interested in being my first guest? I had no idea like what I was doing. I just knew that if you drop the buzzword podcast, it's like AI at the moment. If you drop the word podcast in there, then maybe they'll reply.
Yeah. And now fast forward to your last guest. Of all the outreaches that you've done, how many said no or rejected, or like if you were to give a percentage? I'm curious on like what your success rate is.
What, as in before I started the podcast?
Since starting to the last episode, in terms of number of outreaches and stuff, because how you were saying that you were so shocked that people would say yes and that you were able to talk to all these people. What would be like your success rate in getting yeses versus
I probably
no's?
emailed like I probably emailed like 20 people or so, and just got aired until I lied to Melissa about the, saying a podcast,
Okay.
and then that kind of went from there. But I think basically though, like the big lesson from this, I'm not saying everyone should start a podcast, even though I do think it's a massive life hack. But I think it's just like everyone's looking for a mentor, but ultimately, like mentors aren't really scalable by virtue of very few people like being in the position that you want to be in. Like they're above average people, which is why there's not that many people like them. Because if they were average, then you'd find loads of mentors around. But there's not that many people who have done what you want to do. So I think the key thing is to try and offer some kind of value in return, and not be like, hey, will you be my mentor? Or hey, will you chat to me for half an hour for nothing in return? I think the point is that the podcast platform, or just even the idea of having a podcast, even though I didn't at the time, is like, I'm trying to give you some kind of platform to speak to other people, which and I think the key thing as well is like the podcast, whenever I do podcast episodes or did podcast episodes for Webflail, is like I'll send you all the clips and you can put them on social, or I'll download the transcripts, or I'll write an article and I'll send it to you so you can send it to people that you work with, because essentially it's giving them a kind of position of recognition or authority in the space.
You're building clout
Now,
for them.
yeah,
you got a clout
but it's a
machine.
value exchange, and I think
Yeah.
it's something to be like, hey, I'm trying to give back to you. Like, this isn't just a one-way traffic exchange, and ultimately, when people feel like it's a fair exchange, then an exchange happens, right? Like, no one's going to reply to my emails if I'm just a random bloke from the internet just reaching out with nothing than, hey, can I take from you? Which is ultimately kind of what I was doing. And until I set up the podcast, like I get why no one was replying to me. So
good lesson. Okay. I mean, for those wanting to start something, maybe a podcast or something else, right? Like from all your conversations, what do you think is the one belief or mindset about failure that holds designers back the most? And like, how have you seen people break free from it?
Sorry, you cut up a bit there.
Oh, you did? I did. Okay. Want me to repeat that?
Yeah, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah. So like, what's the one belief or mindset about failure that holds most designers back from starting something, and what do you think is the thing that helps them break free from it?
So most people are worried about what other people think. That's, I think, the crux of it. And I don't think this is just for freelancers at all. I think this is generally a lot of people don't do stuff that they want to do in life because of other people, or the perception of other people, or not even the perception of other people, the perception they have of what other people's perception is of them, which is nuts, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't do that. Or like, maybe it's a subconscious thing, but it's essentially like, oh, I'm not going to post my work on social media because I'm worried what the school bully will think of me. Like the bully who bullied me 10 years ago. And it's like, no one cares. No one cares. People are so busy doing whatever they do in life.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, you have to live whatever life you want to live, and it's literally like as simple as that. So in the context of failure and freelancing, I think most people's hang-ups about, for example, sharing their work. So a lot of the time people say you should share your work, but people don't really talk about why or how. So basically, there's a whole load of people that might hire you. One, there's agencies or other creatives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth posting your creative work in creative spaces as much as it is on social media. So like Dribble and things like that, I still think that there's huge value in that. So other creatives or agencies. Two, random potential companies that might come across your work and be like, oh, we're looking for something like that. We'll hire you. Or people that you've already worked with who want to rehire you. So
Mm-hmm.
basically there's kind of like different pockets of people that might want to hire you.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not going to hire you unless they know you're there. And so by regularly showing up and
Putting
posting your
yourself out
work
there. Yeah.
publicly, putting yourself out there and actually showing visual work, I think that's a really
Yes.
key thing. And it might not be like a finished new thing that you've made that day. It might be a
Mm-hmm.
project that you did 2 or 3 years ago, but you're just sharing a screenshot or you're scrolling down a website, if it's a website or whatever it is. It's actually just showing what you can do
Mm-hmm.
often, and I think people are like, oh my god, posting is so hard, and it's like, actually no, you're making posting hard, like, and there's a massive difference.
I have that
um
sometimes. It's a lot of energy spent and time and resource sometimes, but I think that's when you have to have a good system, right? Or
I
be
agree.
disciplined, or
Yeah,
being consistent and developing that habit. And it takes time. It takes time to build the momentum of posting regularly.
agreed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this helps, if anyone's listening to this and it's like, okay, I need some kind of system to actually make sure I do
Mm,
this.
okay.
What I find is it's quite good to do this with someone else that also wants to post consistently. And
I
if you
like
just
that.
WhatsApp your post to them every
Yeah.
single time you post, then they check their
Mm,
WhatsApp and they're like, oh man, I'm going to post. And it means
mm,
that you hold each other accountable.
okay.
And the other nice thing about it is obviously, like, they might share your post, or they'll
Yeah.
kind of be your little cheerleader. And sometimes when you start posting, because you haven't actually shared a lot of content before, and you might not like be feel that confident just doing it generally,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like you're kind of exposing yourself. You're like, hey guys,
Yeah.
here's this thing I made like recently, and it's a website template or whatever. And it's like, you kind of realize the more you do it, and the more that friend might just like share it or like it or whatever, that actually it's not that scary. And you're actually trying to start a conversation. You're not just going in there and being like, here's something I made, bye. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, here's something I made, here's something I'm working on. What do you guys think about this? Or like,
Mm.
it kind of starts a conversation every time you share something, and that ultimately is, you get work from having conversations. And I kind of see every social media post as like a start to a digital conversation.
Yeah, that's good. So that made me think about a theory that I have that I'd like to share. So I believe that I have a few fundamental truths, like universal truths that every humans have. I think one of them is people they want to look good. That's like at the end of the day, they want to look good. Because if we talk about fear of failure, and in terms of the context of a designer, how they present themselves and the work they put out is very visual. And so if people judge them based on their work, it intrinsically implies that it reflects their value too, their worth as a designer. And so it's bad enough that people want to like have to protect their own reputation and like visually and all that. But I think it's even worse that like your work is tied to the aesthetics of how you come across, like your branding. And so
Yeah.
I think that's why putting work out there, they are so afraid to being judged or critiqued, because that is like, it feels way more than just, I don't know, like just a silly comment.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, um, generally people that do design are quite maybe they're quite observant people. They feel a lot, and that helps them be good at design. But they also take criticism quite hard, maybe, and
Yeah.
find the internet quite a scary place. And I completely appreciate that it's easy to say and harder to do.
Hmm.
But I just think starting small and regular is it kind of breaks this um, weird weirdness around
Hmm.
posting and sharing your work. I think it's and also doing it with a friend who also is like, ick, I don't like this. It
Hmm.
feels weird and makes me feel uncomfortable. You're doing it together.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
I love that.
if you're
That's so good.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like if you're a bit overweight and you want to lose weight and
Hmm.
you go to a gym class and everyone in the gym is really fit and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
not meant to be here. I
Yes.
don't want this. Then if you can find someone else who's maybe like in a similar position to you and wants to lose
Yeah.
weight, and you're like the two guys
The
who
two
are a little
unfit
bit of,
guys in the gym.
this is
Yeah.
me to be to be honest. I'm talking
Yeah.
about me here. If like I found a friend who was also a little bit, he wasn't fat, but me and him, we had enough to go around, and we went to the gym classes together, and it really helped us both
Yeah.
kind of go into that environment where we felt a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit self-conscious. And it turned out it was actually not that scary at all,
Hmm.
because we were kind of holding each other accountable to go to the classes. When we were
Hmm.
in the classes, we were together, so it didn't really matter. And it just made everything a little bit easier. And ultimately, the discomfort was good for us,
Hmm.
we looked and felt a lot better after going for a few months. Just like
Yeah.
your bank account will probably look and feel better after you start posting for a few months. So I don't know.
Mm.
I think it's just worth trying that out.
Interesting. I love how you made the correlation with the quality of content putting out to the amount of money you make. I think there's a interesting correlation to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe um,
I
it's
agree with
being
that.
in the room. It's
Yeah.
being like present
Showing
in the
up.
room,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's like I pay for quite an expensive co-working space,
Hmm.
and part of the reason why I want to pay for an expensive co-working space is because it's a place where other people don't think it's an expensive place to work by virtue of them being here already. I'm like, okay, I'm paying to get in the room. But as a
Hmm.
result, I turn up to the room every single day and I'm super chatty with people because I'm like, hey, part of the reason why I'm here isn't because the desks and there's lighting. I've got that at home. Thank you very much. What I'm here for is partly to chat to people and
Hmm.
say, hey, what do you do? Oh, you run an agency. Oh, that's cool. Oh, what are you working on at the moment? Oh, nice. And I'm here and I'm present every day,
Hmm.
every working day at least. I'm not a psychopath. And vice versa, being posting online, I kind of look at it as the same thing. I'm like, hey, there's all these interesting, amazing people out here. Let's start a conversation. Let's post something. Let's ask a question. Let's comment on other people's feed. Let's just see
Hmm.
what people are up to. And amazing things happen when you're curious, is what I find.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that accountability structure. I think that's so helpful in starting your journey because yeah, we all have our insecurities. I think if we can finally get to a point where we can get over our need to look good and move ahead and just say I'm a work in progress and have that mindset of I'm going to improve. I may look bad now. I don't care. I'm just going to keep going because I'm not in a fixed state. I'm in like a growth iterative process. And if I do that, then over time and with my buddy, I will get better. And I think that is the key to moving to where you are now as like a junior or someone starting from scratch to someone who's a professional, who's an expert, and who's willing to put in the work and do the reps.
Yeah, agreed. And also, like, you're never where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think there's this idea that you'll finally make it. And you know what? There's just another level. There's another
Mm.
hill. You get to the brow of the hill, and you're like, oh, there's another one. and you don't necessarily like think about it like that. You're just like, oh my God, I'm at the bottom of the hill. What am I doing? And actually, like, I'm sure Melissa Mendez has another hill. I'm sure
Mhm.
Joseph Berry wants to be someone he's not in some aspects of his life. I'm sure that whoever wants to, that they're not where they want to be. And so I think there's this perception that it's like, oh my God, like I'm I'm never going to be that person. And it's like, no, you're probably not. You're probably never going to make it, as it were, because there's just another
Well, it's a
thing. So you
moving
might as well,
goalpost. Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
might as well just share what you're doing with the knowledge and skill set that you have at the time. Like that's
Mhm.
like ultimately trying to wait for this fictitious, gold at the end of the rainbow position as a designer to start posting or developer to start sharing, I
Mhm.
think it's just a complete misnomer. And I think it's a really dangerous mindset to
Mm.
have.
Interesting. Well, I have a thought on this. Like, I'm big on goals, but I agree with you that when you arrive at the destination and you've achieved the goal, the sense of happiness is very temporary. It doesn't last. But I think it's worthwhile aiming at a high goal because the journey it takes and who you're becoming, that's where the goal is. It's all about
Mhm.
becoming. It's not about the accomplishment per se. It's not that alone. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's the journey, not the destination type idea, right?
And who you're becoming. I think
And
that's
who
what it
you're
is.
becoming in the
It's the
process. Yeah.
maturity. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say this isn't to say like, oh, don't have goals and don't have a
Yeah.
next level. Like I think naturally as humans it's really important to say that I think it's
Yeah.
really healthy to be like, okay, I've got to here and that's great and let's enjoy that. Great, feeling good. I'm enjoying where I'm at. Now I want to hit a new goal and that's not necessarily a financial goal. It might be I want to work less and focus on this other thing, this other part of my life that maybe I haven't been able to focus on in the journey to where I am now. For example, like I'm actually in that phase. I was just like, God, I just want to be a freelancer. Like I would just love consistent enough work to even just survive.
Mm.
Like that was my goal. And now I've achieved that goal. I have enough work and I can live and I can be in this nice co-working space and be productive and I feel good about that. But then there's part of me that's like, okay, now I'm here, what's the next thing that I'm trying to move towards? But I
Right. So
guess I'm
let's
still sharing stuff that's still not good, and I'm
so let's
like,
talk about
I
that.
know that it's good now.
So you
Yeah.
wrapped up Webflail. That's kind of an end of a chapter. You are now full-time freelancing. You've been doing it for over a year, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was working with Arnau Ross
mm,
for a few months at the start of last year, or like
okay.
kind of this time last year, maybe. So I haven't been freelancing for over a year.
So you're
But yeah,
collaborating some client work with him.
yeah, he's an
Yeah.
interesting guy. So for anyone that doesn't know Arnau Ross, well, I'm sure people that listen to this do, but he basically has a large YouTube channel. He's a amazing designer, and he basically shares all sorts of different content. God, he's got 72,000 followers. Good for him. He's yeah, he's doing amazing work with his content, and he basically wanted to set up a agency because he was getting all this uh, inbound traffic to his YouTube channel, and a load of people
Wow.
were trying to hire him. And he was like, "Oh, that's great, but I didn't want to do that work, or I don't have capacity to do that work." So he was referring it out, and then he was like, "Oh, what would happen if I set up my own agency?" So me and him worked on that for a bit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was fun. Um,
But no
and that's
longer. Or is it
but no
still
longer, but no
okay?
longer. Yeah. So yeah, I should clarify. So essentially, I think we had. Um, I mean, he wanted to set up a particular type of agency, which was like, let's work on all sorts of different projects.
Mm.
Um, and let's potentially do app builds and all sorts. And I was kind of like, I don't think I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that I realized I wanted to actually get back to doing creative work again. I was kind
Mm-hmm.
of more like his. I was trying to like help him put in systems and processes for the agency to work
Okay.
and do like project management and stuff, which was a really fun experience. But I guess I ultimately realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do. So
Mm.
then, yeah, started freelancing again. Was burnt out by doing big, boring projects, I guess.
Mm.
I think there's this perception that as a freelancer, you want to get as big a project as you can
Mm-hmm.
until you quickly realize that the big projects generally come with big egos and big
Yeah.
teams
And
and
are boring.
big, design by committee and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I basically
I
was like,
love how your tagline is for brands that don't want boring.
yeah, so I kind of changed what I was doing, and I wanted to do a lot more experimental website content. Um, and so, yeah, I basically was like, okay, what are people doing in the space that's interesting or that excites me, and how are they doing it? And that's kind of where this under the hood podcast idea came up. I was like, we only ever see the end result of the website. We don't actually see like how they even came up with these really
Mm.
mad experimental ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So I started interviewing people, and yeah, and I've only just started that. I've done 2 episodes, but that's really fun. And then freelance wise, doing a
Wow,
lot
that's really
more like,
cool.
oh, it's mad. Yeah, that's Mael Rafini's work. Um, he's doing a lot of Blender and then 3GS.
Okay.
Um, he's mad talented.
So why niche in 3D? That seems to be where you want to position yourself.
Yeah, I definitely am. So um, I don't know if you've used Lovable or other tools like that,
Not
but
yet. I was just playing with it last night a little bit, but how is that pretty
mad.
powerful? Should I lean towards
It's
that?
a pretty crazy tool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just an interesting example of kind of like where um, where potentially people are going to start creating websites and exploring that. But for anyone that hasn't used it, it's called lovable.dev, and you can type in a prompt, and literally it will create code. You can link it up to Superbase to have authentication and login. You can
Mm.
link it up to Stripe, and you can just type in anything, and it will literally create anything. And it is terrifyingly good. Um, yeah, so we can see something happen maybe.
Oh, I gotta sign up
Oh,
for it.
you got to sign in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, it's cool. So I was using that and also playing around with other tools. Obviously, Rayloom. You've got incredible site builder from a prompt, and then Webflow. I kind of felt were going to do their own AI thing very soon, but the kind of blue ocean I thought was experiential websites where you couldn't just type a prompt in as easily as you can for other things. You couldn't just, you couldn't do something with AI quite as easily with 3D. And
Mm.
then the other thing is that I think the e-commerce experience and the website generally is very flat right now. Like you've got um, a mobile screen which is like the palm of your hand, and that surface area is tiny, and a lot of people are trying to do all sorts on that tiny screen. And I think as web designers, everyone's done an incredible job to fit a website that fits on a massive monitor onto a tiny screen and stack information and whatever. But I think with VR and AR and headsets and Ray-Bans with Meta and all of these different more kind of immersive web experiences, I think
Mm.
3D is going to become more
Mm,
and more prevalent.
I
So I
see.
guess I was kind
Okay.
of like, and then Spline is like the gateway drug to 3D. It's like,
Yeah.
the marijuana of 3D. You kind of start there and then go from there
Yeah.
to Blender and 3JS
Yeah.
and uh, you know all sorts. And that's where Mael Rafini is so inspiring. And
Okay.
then Rive has come off the blocks, and
Rive has
2D
been
design.
insane. I cannot.
Rive has been insane,
Yeah, I
and
can't
it's
wait to
super
just.
competitive with Spline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Spline is a 3D
Yeah.
platform, um, and the idea is that you can use it, quite well in browsers. The problem is it's not as fast loading as Rive, and Rive is super optimized for fast loading speeds, and it's a 2D builder, but you can do things that look very convincingly 3D with
Mm,
feathering. They've got vector feathering and all sorts of other features that have just been dropping recently. And yeah, I'm blown
interesting.
away by where Rive's going. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but I just think like also it's not fun to build websites that you can build with AI, in my opinion. Like it's just like
Okay.
it's I don't know. I just feel like from the perspective of someone that wants to do like an original design, um, you're creating quite a run of the mill website when using
The prompts.
regular
Yeah.
layouts a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
I'm sure, and I think within the boundaries of Rayloom, for example, you can do a lot. Like, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
kills your creativity, because I think within the constructs of those layouts, like, there's so much creativity that can be had.
Hmm.
And obviously, it doesn't account for like how you treat animation and motion. It's more just like gives you the building blocks to work with.
Yeah.
But I do think like I don't know. There's something to be said for hiring someone like who you can't just use AI for to help make you something. So I guess that's what I'm kind of intrigued by.
Well, I think the push with AI is going to allow people to become art directors. That's the ultimate destination, I think, for now when it comes to design. You still
Yeah.
need to know aesthetics. You need to train your eye to what looks good. You need to look at the proportions and all that. And so that still requires training. But I think the grunt work to push the pixels and draw rectangles and all that is kind of behind us. So I think that's where it's hitting, to be honest. And I have an opinion on prompt-based design with AI as opposed to something like Reloom, or even Webflow's recent site builder. There's on canvas editing. When you have that, there's a world of difference because we're still visual people. And so how do you, like, I think the process of having an idea in your head and how it looks like, and then you're trying to translate that in a paragraph, right? And then you're describing things. That's a painful process, right?
Mm.
So I think if you can see the actual design, the canvas, and then actually hover your mouse and then right click or edit that way, which is still visual, which is basically the whole premise of Webflow, right? It's like visual development. I think that's where people will thrive. So I think if you just primarily stick to prompts, it's a painful process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think like things like Lovable are quite interesting because you can upload imagery, and then you can
Mm.
also give a prompt, so you can be like, hey, I really like the, I don't know,
The,
e-commerce layout from this,
right.
but I don't like the color palette. Like, here's some different colors that I think might do
Mm.
better. And you can upload a few different images that will go from there. And yeah, I think Raylim's really an insane tool. I think it's so much easier to edit something that's already there
Hmm.
than to come up from scratch from a new design, right?
Hmm.
Um, I would say though, like the messiness is kind of part of it, and you kind of lose the messiness in a funny way. Like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the messy middle kind of helps to create the final outcome. And sometimes when you lose the messy middle, you get a bit lazy. I found
I
that
would
when I
call
use
that
gradient
play.
systems.
When you
Yeah,
say that's the
maybe.
fun. That is the creative process. Like you got like a picture of the painter with paintbrushes and you know just marks all over their clothes. It's like they're in it and they're playing and they're experimenting and they're trying things out. And
Yeah,
it's just not as fun if you like you do a prompt and then voila, it's done. Right?
yeah. No,
So
it's funny when it's like so easy that it's
it's so
actually
easy that it's boring.
well, it's so easy that it's actually hard. Like, what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that it's so easy to make a website that it makes it hard to make a good website almost.
Yeah.
Like your the like stress and fun of spending hours on a section to just
Yeah.
like figure it out and work out like what are the animations going to be and how is this going to move and how's this going to work on mobile in comparison. And it's just like, oh, like there's 10 different components or like sections that are pre-made and you can just jam them in. It's kind of like,
Okay,
yeah, I don't know
I
if
got a
it's
hot
as
take on
fun or
this.
as good.
You know what? It's for a client though, they don't care. For a
Yeah,
designer, they care. Designers care about putting in the effort, the work, because after they put in hours, or even a developer, they'll figure out some code or figure out how to, you know, make some multi-form section work. And then when it's done, it feels euphoric,
yeah,
like they just feel accomplished. But at the end of the day, from a client's point of view, when they look at it, they don't care how much time you put in. They just want it done. So I think it's
yeah.
really good to
I mean,
know those two things. Like as a designer, we want to put in more hours and work because it feels accomplished. You feel fulfilled. So that's going to be interesting,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. No, agreed. I think there's like a balance between like my own selfish needs or wants,
Yeah.
not even needs, but wants, versus like the client and what they're willing to pay for. But changing to a day rate's kind of interesting because they're like, how many days is this going to take to get it done,
Mm,
rather than like, what's the project fee?
okay.
Um, and so it is about speed rather than
Yes.
um,
Okay.
like out there.
I spoke to Dan Mall on a previous interview about value-based pricing, and we kind of go through different scenarios. What's your approach on pricing projects, and how's that been for like freelancing? Have you tried value-based, or I'm
Yeah,
curious
I mean, like,
what's your experience with that?
just to be clear, I think I did value-based pricing wrong. So
Mm.
I'm not to say that I don't think value-based pricing is good. I think when you do value-based pricing badly, it's bad. That's what I would preface this whole thing by saying.
Can you share your
Um,
story?
yeah, sure. I mean, I basically took on a massive project. So I charged 10 grand, which sounds like loads of money. And
Mm.
it is a substantial amount of money. I was like, oh my God, I'm set. I'm going to buy that camper van. And, and the project went on for 6 months and I had no leverage, because I basically charged 50% up front,
Hmm.
25% at a checkpoint, 25% at the other checkpoint, and 10 grand over 6 months is not a lot of money.
No, it's
Um,
not.
it
What is that?
it's if you're doing that for that long and you don't take on other projects because you're trying to focus on this one project.
That's
Um,
$167 a month. Or
no,
sorry.
that can't
No,
be right.
1,600 a month.
1600, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds more like it.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, it was a nightmare, and the reason why it went on so long is partly because it was a big CMS migration from WordPress to Webflow.
Mm,
So there was all this content that, a lot of people are like, how easy is it to export content from WordPress to Webflow? Um, and
mm,
it's not all that easy because you've got loads of plugins that mess up the information, is what I found. Plus the fact that when you do export that information, then they want to change everything. Then they want to change, the tagging system and that changes the URL structure, and oh my lord, it was just a nightmare. It was a nightmare, and they had
Okay.
thousands of articles and videos and everything. To cut a long story short, I thought value-based pricing was the bee's knees before I took on that project. After I did that project, I massively undercharged for the job because I needed to get in other people to help
Mm-hmm.
out of the pocket that I was out of the pot, and I also didn't take on other work because it was a huge project to design and develop a site like that, and it was
So
just quite chaotic.
so how did you come up to the price of 10K? I'm curious. That
Well, I was
sounds to
like,
me that it's more project based. Like, okay, this migration costs 10K. Done. Something
it
like
was
that.
kind of like it was kind of like this is a massive project, so I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going to put a big, hairy, audacious number out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that at the time was like, oh my god, if I get this would be great,
Right. Okay.
and it wasn't great. It was so that's how the value based. It wasn't very like if Dan
Okay.
Moore was listening to this, he'd probably want to like throw up in a bowl. It wasn't
Actually,
very.
that fits his definition of value based, actually, which is basically like whatever you feel like, which was a surprise to me. I thought value based price is always you have to find out how much value you're bringing. How much value is your service bringing to the client, and then based on that, you get a percentage. So like, is this migration, or inversely, what's it costing you not to work with me? Like, by
Mm.
not migrating from WordPress to Webflow, how much is it costing your business, a month or whatever? And so let's say if it's like 100 grand for the whole year. So I'm like, okay, well, for 10% of that, which is 10,000, then, that is a fair exchange. But,
Yeah, I mean, like to
yeah,
be honest, I just thought, hey, this is going to cover me, and I'm going to
yeah,
be sorted for a few months. And I was like, this is great. That's
yeah.
kind of how I priced it. I was like, hey, if I can do this for 2 months, then I can take 2 months off. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
like, it wasn't that scientific,
Yeah.
but it was ludicrous. The project
Oh boy.
for a number of reasons, but mostly because I was, uh, naive and ignorant. And since then, charging day rate has been amazing because I can
Mm.
essentially know how much money I'm going to get each month,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's
projects are
more
quicker.
controllable. Yeah.
It's more controllable. It's
Yeah.
on the client to get all their ducks in a row before I start the project as
I
well.
see. Yep.
And the other great thing about it is that the client is they kind of become more accountable,
Mm-hmm.
um, not just to get me the stuff, but also to turn up to meetings,
Mm.
um, to know what they want before we start working. So they kind of do a lot of the heavy lifting stuff that you do when a client doesn't really know what they want, but you just
Mm-hmm.
charge a value of what you hypothetically think it's going to bring them, or this hypothetical number of like what you think it might, or like there's I found value-based pricing was a bit nebulous for people that didn't really have like solid numbers, who didn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have Google Analytics even on their current site, like who it's like, how long is a piece of string? What value am I providing? What value do you think you're going to get from me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, day rates better and
Yeah,
easier to manage is what I found.
for sure. No,
Um,
value-based pricing is I think you need to be pretty advanced in like understanding their problem and negotiating, and it's a whole different
I'd
skill
say
set for sure.
I would say though, like if you are sure that a project will be like done in a space of time,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then I think it makes a lot of sense. Um, what I found so far though is that I'm never sure, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that goes into a project, like starting and ending on time. Like you might set up a beautiful little
Yeah.
like Notion board which has got like little movable nodules, and it
Yeah.
changes the colors, and it's like goes from like red to orange to yellow to green, and it's like, oh, looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then you throw people into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
See how
And
that goes. Because
delays and
my
yeah.
experience, you know, life happens to your little Notion board of plans,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not as linear as you think it's going to be. And I don't know, someone leaves the company who you were dealing with, and then a marketing manager comes in, and they just say, "No, we're going to start again," because they got a big
Yeah.
ego. And it's
Yeah.
like it's hard to manage projects as a freelancer as well
Yes.
as do the work.
Yes.
Whereas if it's
Yeah.
just like, this is my day rate, I budget around 5 to 10 days,
Mm.
depending on how quickly we can get stuff done. What I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend is you go off and do this, this, this. Give me the copy, give me the images, give me the da da da.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend 2 days critiquing your design before developing. I'm not going to start development unless everything is signed off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all of that stuff just means everything's done quicker, easier, faster, better. It's like a Daft Punk song, but it's just, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you can find a framework that that works for you, then that's all that matters at
Yeah,
the
it
end of the
works
day.
great for me. And,
Yeah.
I don't have kids. I don't have big overheads.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that much money, but I do need to know my cash flow in order to call BT or British Gas and say, hey, yeah, I can pay this bill this month.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing value-based pricing, I just found like I literally didn't know when I was going to get paid. Like I had no forward, like I had an idea of
Mm-hmm.
what my schedule was going to be for the project, but then the project happened and the schedule just fell out, and I had no leverage. I wasn't going to get paid unless the work was done. Well, how's
Yeah.
the work going to get done? Well, I need, the client to,
Right.
help me get what I need to do my job. So, just took a while.
Yeah. I think it's important it's a good lesson to learn. I think to then in the future bake in all these extra terms. Like if there are delays, then I'll charge you X, Y, Z, all these extra things that protect you as a designer, protect your time. I mean, that's a whole other thing to learn as well. But
Yeah, definitely.
hey, look, we learn through our failures, right?
Hey, man, it's all about failing. It's all
right.
about.
So this is a great interview. Thank you for your time. I want to wrap this up. I think if I can ask one question, if you could boil down everything you've learned from Webflail into one piece of advice for someone terrified of failing, what would it be?
Get out your own way. The only person that's stopping you is you. So you've just got to start. You should have started yesterday, but you didn't. So you're going to start today, and find someone that wants to start the same journey as you, and just hold on tight. And it's going to be a roller coaster, but just go for it. Is what I would say.
Awesome. So good.
Nice one.
Fail hard, fail faster, right?
Yeah, just go for it. Like, no one cares.
Yeah, that's right.
If you want to do something, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Just go do it. And it's like literally, I don't know, it's as simple as that, I think.
So good. Right on. Jack Redley, thank you so much. If people want to reach out to you, how can they contact you?
At Jack Redley 1 on Twitter, Jack Redley Design on YouTube, info@jackredley.design on email.
Fantastic. Jack Redley, thank you so much, sir.
Loads of love. Thanks, man.
Peace.
Peace.